the network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.
This is an AVNation special. My name is Tim Albright. I am your host. With me today is none other than the head of all ISE himself, Mr. Michael Blackman. How are you, sir?
I'm fine, thanks, Tim, and thanks again for inviting us to participate in AVNation, and again for your support last year. It was a great event, and we love what you did.
Well, thank you for having us. I mean, seriously, that was it was an incredible experience, just flat out. And I'm not saying that because I'm going to be with you in 2 weeks. It was really cool. I mean, it really is a good marriage of both. Integrated Systems Europe, ISE, is a good marriage of both organizations, right? And if you're not aware, ISE is technically, or not technically, is owned by Infocom and CEDIA, respectively. And the show is reflective of that, I think.
Yeah, very much. And it was something where the industry said, what we saw were a lot of companies who crossed both residential and commercial. And they said, look, before we do 2 shows in Europe, can we not get one event and try and do this together? There was a lot of teeth pulling, but it got there. And we proved the point that it works. The industry loves it. We get attendance from both sides of the fence. This is quite important. And you also have to look at the way the market is in Europe as well. You find in the UK, for example, a distinction between those guys who are doing residential and those guys who are doing commercial. But other countries like Germany or some of the Eastern European countries, you find it's the same integrators who are doing both commercial and residential. So it makes sense that they can find everything they want at one event rather than having to go to 2 exhibitions.
What do you think that is in the European market and also in Middle Eastern as well, where you have the one shop that straddles both, as opposed to the US, where a lot of times you're right, we will have commercial centric and residential centric folks?
I think the reason is because the core skills that an integrator has, whether he's doing commercial or residential, are the same.
Yeah.
It's just the scale or some of the intricacies are a little bit different, but the core skills are the same and sort of knowledge they need. That's the first point. The second point is that in some of those countries, residential is not as large or lucrative as, say, in somewhere like the US. So it's very tough, very hard for someone whose business is focused just on residential to survive sometimes. So they need to do both sides. And third point on that is that, they go in and actually do a commercial integration for an office building or, a complex somewhere. And the boss says, hey, I need someone to do my house. Happens as well.
Well, and you know what, that is the other thing is a lot of times we've been talking with CEDIA for the last couple of years, is you've got both back and forth, right? Where you'll have that very thing happen, where you'll have a commercial client come in and they'll do the business office, and that will happen where the boss will say, can you do my house? And the flip side of that will happen as well,
yeah,
where
absolutely.
they'll do the house and say, can you do my dentist office or what have you? So ISE, Integrated Systems Europe, February 9th through the 12th.
Correct.
Let's count those dates here: 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th. You got 4 days, brother. It's how and why, I guess, is 4 days.
We have struggled against this for a long time, but as ISE grew and grew in both the size of the floor, the number of exhibits, but more importantly, the number of attendees, more and more we were getting demands from both attendees who didn't have enough time to see the whole show, said we need more time, and exhibitors who said, well, actually, we need more time to see the people as well. Funny enough, it's the media that are the ones who are the real, you guys have the loudest voice and the smallest companies. So you say, hey, we don't have time to get around, so we need more time. So, the flag waving started with the media. For a long time, we fought against it. But demand came more and more from both sides saying eventually we had to do it. What happens is that we find the first day we're pretty packed. The second day we've been overcrowded. The third day last year, we actually had more attendees on the third day than we did the entire show 5 years ago. So, we were looking at that and said, okay, a lot of exhibitors, even the big ones, were saying, okay, we either need more space and more people to deal with the number, or we need more time to deal with the number. We were sold out this year. Oh, if anyone out there wants some space, we've got about 100 square meters left. We're sold out. So, our exhibitors cannot increase the amount of space they have. So they said, look, we need more time then to deal with the number of attendees that you have. We need more time and more opportunities to speak to these customers.
See, and it's interesting that you say that is in the fact that it came from manufacturers as well. Yes, from the media, absolutely. Because regardless of whether it's EH Publishing or New Bay or whoever, you're right. You could bring an army and not cover the every booth that's there. It's a remarkable feat to do so. Because of the number of halls, because of the number of exhibits, you've got an incredible swath of people there. Everything from, I think last year I saw a number of displays that were built for bathrooms and in wall and behind mirrors, all the way up to the stalwarts of Samsung and Crestron and Kramer and Harman. You mentioned not enough space. One of the things that I found interesting last year is in talking with some of the folks from the RAI, they're in the process of building an extra hall.
Correct.
Not going to be ready for this year's show, but it will be, hopefully, obviously, as long as everything comes together for next year's show. One of the things I've learned is that you guys are already getting ready for 2017. You guys and Infocom and everybody starts that process about 13, 14 months in advance. How has that changed your approach for next year's show? If you can kind of divert for a second about next year's.
So one of the things as you say, we actually start the planning for the 2017 show in November of the year before. So because there's a lot of things we have to give the information not only to our exhibitors but also to attendees, to you guys, the press, because we want you to promote it and tell everybody. And it's the long-term planning is quite important. But we need to prepare a lot of material when we go into ISE and actually tell everybody what's happening. So part of that has been in saying, okay, how do we grow? We have a long-term contract with the RAI, and part of that decision-making was actually finding out what is their process, what are they giving us in terms of facilities in that long term to actually accommodate us as an exhibition. So this new hall was quite a godsend for us, being sold out this year. We said, okay, guys, we need to expand. And there are one or two other shows that have the same thing. The RAI's been very clever, and this is a multi-purpose building. When the building is not being totally sold out for exhibit space, but they need more parking space, they'll actually use this for parking.
Oh, wow.
So it's a multi-purpose hall. But actually being built in this way. So we will actually gain another couple of thousand square meters out of this new facility, brand new hall. And below and on top we'll still have car parking as well. So we have both sides of it, but it's been slotted in between two halls, so it fits into that complex and will be connected and integrated into the whole complex. So as an attendee, you won't actually notice this is something that's just been slotted in, unless you really know the RAI well. Yeah. But it will go in there, it will add another additional facility to the show. It will be in that. It won't be something that's out on a limb. It's part of, integrated into the whole complex.
Very nice.
So what we're doing is, one of the other parts that as we've grown, and when we first started ISE, we mixed everything up because we said, okay, if you're an integrator doing both sides of business, you want to see everything. As we've grown and become larger as an exhibition, we've had demands from a lot of attendees saying, this show's so big, we need to focus our time and start somewhere which is more focused on what we need for our business. So we made one hall purely dedicated to residential. And there's a lot of residential in the rest of the show as well, but it just helps those companies who are quite small and limited time say, let's start here. We have one hall, Hall 8, which is dedicated to digital signage. same thing. If digital signage is the focus of your business, start in Hall 8, but you still go to the Atrium, which is where, oh, sorry, that's new as well, which is totally Samsung. So last year you didn't see the Atrium. That was the new building that came online this year, and Samsung has taken that in its entirety.
Wow.
So that's new. We will have the other building online next year. So yes, we had a new building this year. I almost forgot.
I didn't realize it. Yeah, that's awesome.
So and we started trying to focus certain solution areas. So you have some halls which are general and everything's in there. Then you have Hall 5, or we called Hall 4 this year, which is focused on residential. Hall 7, which is where you were last year, is focused on audio. Hall 8 is focused on digital signage. Hall 9 is focused on unified communications. So there's a little bit of mix and some focus there. Hall 12 is smart building. So what we're doing, smart building is outgrown Hall 12, and that's going to be moving to the new hall next year, because we need more space to accommodate the exhibitors who focus their presence about smart building. And what we're planning is in the old Hall 12, which is a smaller hall, which is great for developing new areas. We're going to move everything which is focused on AV and education into that hall.
That's awesome. Yeah, that right there is something that I think is needed, not just for you, but also at Infocom and other shows, is when you guys are able to kind of focus those and give people kind of an area.
Well, Infocom does that already, and we learned a lot from Infocom in how they do things, to actually say, let's get these pavilion focuses to actually help attendees, give them a place to start where they can find the focus of their business first before looking everywhere else.
It also, those pavilions also give folks who you've got the mainstays, but it also gives folks who are up and coming a place to kind of show their wares and sit next to, it gives a smaller control manufacturer a chance to sit next to Crestron, right?
Yeah.
You mentioned the different areas. You also got a number of new theaters this year.
Yes. Last year we had 3 theaters. It was the Residential Solution Theater was also in the hall where you were last year, and that's where we focused. Now, these theaters are on the show floor. The idea is that, I think I told you this last year, but I always try to explain that an exhibition is a bit like a magazine. Or even a TV show or a radio show. There's one part which is the editorial, that's the part we're doing now, and then there's the advertising. So the advertising is the exhibits. And we as an organizer, we need to provide the content, the editorial part of this, so that the attendee can come and get independent information, something where they're not being sold to. So we put on these theaters to actually they run 40-minute sessions, really, and they're not sales pitches. They're really supposed to be independent learning opportunities where you can get a bit of an overview about a subject matter or a sector of the show, etc. Now, these run throughout the day. We have the Residential Solutions Theatre. That will be in Hall 4. Focused on a whole load of seminars and presentations. CEDIA is very involved in that one. Throughout the show, giving you ideas on various aspects of residential systems integration. We have the Commercial Theatre. That's in Hall 8. And it does the same thing based on the commercial side. We have the Unified Communications Theatre. That's also a repeat from last year, where everything about UC, that's a whole subject matter, is just covering that. What's new this year will be the Audio Solutions Theatre. That's coming into Hall 7 because we had quite a high demand for companies who are providing pro and residential audio solutions, wanting in a platform. We said, okay, let's take that out and make a separate theatre there. So that's there as well. And these go, we have them designed. We work with a designer. They actually do, I think it's the same company that does TEDx in Netherlands. And they help us put it all together, just to run these sessions throughout the day. They do the set design, and we try to feature the design to a little bit to reflect what the subject matter is. So these nice little theaters with about between say 30 and 50 seats. where you can just come in and sit down and listen for half an hour or longer if you want. The program's online. Go to the ISE website, www.iseurope.org. And there, go under program, and there you'll find information on the show floor theaters and see a complete program of what's running. And choose the things which you think will be of interest to you, and go and take a bit of a rest your feet, and listen and learn something.
Well, and my personal favorite theater though is the UC, and it's completely self-serving because I'm moderating a panel there. So
good. Actually, we've got something which you should know about, because I saw at Infocom you were right opposite it, and that's we have a drone pavilion this year.
Oh, excellent!
So it's the same guys we're working with Stampede,
okay,
and that'll be in the back of Hall 8, and I think it's very, very interesting. There's a lot of interest in drones, and not just as toys. This is really, I was amazed when I saw what the guys presented there, showing all the solutions end to end, the background of how these things can be used and what you need behind it and what applications they can serve. And we had discussion with Stampede, and they really said, hey, we'd love to do this in Europe. And they're working, they've got the drone university, or the unmanned vehicle university, running theater sessions there as well, and presentations. So aspects about what are the legal aspects of actually flying a drone. What's the government legislation to do things like this? And all these sort of subject matter that are important if you are an integrator who may be thinking, I offer a solution for a real estate agent who wants to show fly-throughs of new properties he's trying to sell, etc. There are all sorts of applications, great ideas how these things can be implemented in a for-profit solution, not just a toy.
Yeah, you make a good point there. One thing in Europe, and I'll just stick with Europe for a second, because that's where you live. Is that more of a responsibility of the EU, or is that each individual country that has the different legislation and regulations?
I mean, I think it depends on country by country, but generally it's sort of on a government level in each country. Okay. Sometimes you'll find local, regional laws to deal with things. It really, it changes by country. It's not an EU. There will be some overriding EU legislation that will probably come in. I'm not aware of what it is at the moment, so I'm a novice in this area. But generally, you'll find some overriding EU legislation for everything, just trying to standardize it. But generally, that's a domain of the individual country governments on how they manage things. They do take and work together, and this is a good thing for the EU, is to try and standardize it so that you don't have one system in one country and another in another. So they try to standardize some parts of it in that way.
One of the things that came out of the drone pavilion, and you're right, we were right across at our booth last year at Infocom. I understand some of it, right? But I came away with it still asking the question, okay, I understand drones. I get it. It's neat. It does a lot of things. But as far as integrators, right? Explain to someone who maybe is watching this and is coming to Amsterdam, and is looking at their schedule going, okay, we got this, I got this theater, this thing on drones. What is this, and why should I go? If I'm an integrator or someone who's coming to ISE, why should I go to the drone pavilion?
Tim, I had exactly the same question before, and I went along nosy to the drone pavilion saying, okay, is this a toy? What has this got to do with systems integration? And I went in there and I did the walkthrough, and then I said, wow, this makes sense. When you suddenly see, the drone is just part of the application. It's the eye in the sky. You think about, let's take air traffic. Let's take traffic control.
Okay.
Now, before, the police authorities were using helicopters. That's very expensive. Not the safest way of flying. But you can get the same eye in the sky with the drone controlled, and for much, much less money. The cost of flying, the hourly cost of flying, is a fraction of what it costs to take a helicopter. It means, and you can probably put several up and cover more area. So, okay, that's the first part. So you've got that, but then you've actually got to say, how do I do the signal distribution? Where do I take those pictures? What do I do with those pictures at the end of the day?
Okay.
How do I manage the distribution of those pictures? This is the big part, and this is where the systems integrator comes in and can make his money. All the background equipment he can add to that, to a complete solution. Actually say, okay, here to the TV station, this is how you can manage traffic control with multiple drones, with different picture signals, etc., to actually use for a TV broadcast for a fraction of the cost of having one helicopter. The same thing happens. I mentioned the idea on real estate. Suddenly, you're trying to sell a nice big house somewhere, and the buyer gets an opportunity to get an aerial view of that property and really get an overview of what it looks like. You've actually got to take those pictures and do something with it. And there's so many solutions out there, so many ideas and opportunities where drones can be used, and where it becomes a part of the solution that the integrator can sell. And that's what what we're trying to show at ISE is how to increase your business.
Yeah, and that's the bottom line. Okay, that part makes sense to me, right? It was the whole distribution and what to do with the content afterwards, and that it was just the idea of flying a drone just for the sake of flying a drone that I didn't get. So,
well, I say that was my initial thing, and I had this question. And I went along and I sat through and I said, "Wow, now this makes sense to me."
Okay, all right, you sold me. Let's talk about a couple of things. You've got some things going on. If you go to the website iseurope.org. You can look at the map. It's got a thing, and really great integration there. You got something called FRDY, and what FRDY is that's your Friday stuff, right? It's the Friday at ISE, and you've got a number of things going on. But the thing that kicks off the day is at 9 o'clock. You have Dr. Michio Kaku.
Yeah.
If you're not familiar with Dr. Kaku, he's a futurist, right? This guy is a, let's just say he'll be the smartest guy in the room, most likely.
I mean, he definitely is. I've seen him speak on a couple of occasions. Firstly, the guy is just wow when it comes to being clever and predicting what's going to happen in the future. But what I like is his presentation style. This guy can be funny. This guy has a great presentation style that makes it interesting. He's not dry and boring, but he's very, very interesting. So we were very lucky to be able to find, get a slot with him and get him to come over to Amsterdam to actually do this keynote. I think it's going to be very, very exciting. We had a call with him a couple of weeks ago just to talk about the subject matter, and I can tell you what he's going to be telling us. I give you a little snippet on there to not give away too much. Okay. But he says the way things are developing for the future is that with more robotics and more automation, that the more jobs are going to become automated. So
okay,
only the creative people like you and I, Tim, we're the ones that are going to survive.
We're good. All the rest of the people that are bad.
Yeah.
You've seen Dr. Kaku. I will almost guarantee you've seen him. He doesn't take his line of work too seriously. He's been on a freaking H&R Block commercial for crying out loud, right? Which is a tax service here in the U.S. He's been on a number of sci-fi shows and National Geographic shows talking about futures, and he's actually talked about the robotics thing before, and talking about looking at the future of civilization, right? Where are we going, and looking at and talking about things like with people like Neil deGrasse Tyson. Actually, that's somebody who I would equate him to different disciplines. Dr. Tyson is an astrophysicist, but he's a astronomer. Sorry. But that type of person and that type of presentations, you're right. The presentation should be very, very dynamic.
He makes it interesting, and I think he appeals to almost every age group. I'll give you an example. I'd seen him live, and I was fascinated by him anyway. One day I came home, and it was a Saturday, and my little son, he's 12 years old, 12 12 years old tomorrow.
Happy birthday.
And he was just watching, I don't know, Simpsons or something like that. I said, oh, come on, can't you watch something more sensible? And I switched the TV over to Discovery Channel, and there was Michio Kaku presenting something on robots.
Yeah.
And my son suddenly dropped everything, and he sat there glued to this program for, I'd say, 45, 50 minutes, totally enthralled. And because the presentation level, it was enough to enthrall me, but also simple enough for him to understand what this was and where it was going and make it interesting. And I just think, when people can actually take a subject matter that's so complicated and so high and take it down to the simplest level to make it interesting and understandable to everybody, that's a skill.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Yeah, and especially since he's able to grab just multiple generations like that.
Yeah.
As someone who gets to oversee this show, Integrated Systems Europe, what's maybe one or two of your favorite things about that week? I'm not asking for your favorite booth because that would be unfair, like your favorite kid. But one or two of your favorite activities or something that you look forward to every year.
Actually, I have one favorite thing I do on every show.
Yep.
And I've been doing this ever since I've been running exhibitions. I ran my first exhibition in 1984, so it goes back a little way. And in those days, I ran a show in London called Personal Computer World Show. Okay. And I built it up to be the biggest computer show in the UK. And we used to have about 130,000 attendees, and it was great. And the thing I always loved is the night before the show opens. Most of the companies, all those booths are almost finished and ready, and everybody's been kicked out the hall, and they're just rolling out the carpet, but everything's pristine and ready, and I love to walk around and just enjoy that. And just see it. It's very difficult at ISE because there's so many halls now. I can't get around. I even had a bicycle one year to do it, but yeah. So that's one of my most enjoyable moments. It's less of the anticipation and nervousness of the first show of waiting for those doors to open and making sure people are turning up. We got past that one, but I still love that first day in the opening. The rest of the show just flies by for me. I'm pulled into meetings here, there, and everywhere on the first couple of days, and then the last couple of days, I get everybody wanting me to interview me and ask, well, how was it? So I get to see very little of the show there. The saddest part is the morning after we close and watching it all being knocked down. And that's such a depression, watching a deflation of the whole euphoria that you had beforehand. And it's quite sad when you see that part of it.
Yeah, it was one of the things that struck me last year after having done a number of these shows. The show closes down at 6 o'clock. At 6:01, the carpet starts coming.
4 o'clock.
4 o'clock on Friday. Yeah, sorry, but Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday at 6 o'clock. 4 o'clock on Friday. At 4:01, the carpet comes up, and it's like, oh wow, okay, we're done here, kids. So, that was.
Yeah. You can imagine the logistics in trying to move out of that hole, and as soon as the carpet's up, then the forklift trucks can get in. People got their sack, their trolleys and baggage cars and everything else, trying to get stuff out and move out, and everyone wants to get home. And we've got to manage it all. That's what you see inside. You should see the chaos outside, with all the traffic and everything else. So we're lucky. We're quite a small organization. We're 25 people. But we outsource, we grow during the show to being a couple of hundred. With all the companies we work with regularly, it's all the same teams. So we're working with people who we've always worked with. We have a logistics company called Siva. They do all the move in and move out. Forklift trucks are running around there. We've got traffic control, the RAI. We use the venue, the RAI. We lose a lot of their people because it's the same people. They know the venue better than we do. So they do the traffic control, they do the security. You've got everyone pulling together as one big team to make this whole operation work. And it's the same with move-in as well. Obviously, the move out is more compressed. Move in is about 5 days, 5-6 days. Move out is 2 days.
Yeah, you guys had to be out there by Sunday, and that's the other thing interesting. In talking with, we talk with a number of manufacturers who are going to exhibit. A lot of them are underwriters. Some of them are just people that we're going to cover. And I've asked the question 1,000 times, and I'm sure you have too. When are you getting to Amsterdam? When are you coming in? And I have gotten everything from a week before, right? So the Tuesday prior to morning of, right? Yeah. Where it's depending obviously on who I'm talking to, but the Monday morning, where they're either their booth is not that complicated, or they're outsourcing the entire thing to another company, and they're just showing up to make sure all the T's are crossed and the I's are dotted and things of that nature. So, you guys, one thing that you had last year that I was incredibly impressed by, and one thing before I say that, it's difficult not to compare various trade shows that you go to, right?
Yeah.
Infocom is not ISE and ISE is not CDS. So let me say that. The one thing that you guys all have is you guys all have you have a mobile app. Mm-hmm. I will say this, in my experience, your app, the people who made your app, I think probably got the AV industry more than any other app that I've used for a trade show. I say that, and I'm going to get a call from somebody from Infocom now, but I'm serious. I mean, that's the thing last year's was such an incredible experience with your app. As someone who had never been to the RAI before, someone who had never been to Amsterdam in their life, never been to this trade show, that app helped me so much. It's not even funny, because you're right. You have so many halls. I would find myself, and literally, Mike, I could not tell you where I was. Right.
That's one thing we get a lot of criticism for, actually, because the RAI is not like Las Vegas or Orlando or like Dallas, where everything's very straight lines. Yeah. The RAI is it's been built over a number of years at different times, so it's here and here, and it makes it difficult to navigate. And I mean, for me, it's easy because I'm there so often. Firstly, for the whole time we've been running ISE there, but I'm going there several times a year. I walk around shows, and I can do it, with my blindfolded, because I know where all the holes are, and we know how the system works. We've tried to put a system in place with the hall numbers and the aisle numbers and the row numbers, etc. That if you understand the system, it's quite logical. So always look, the first number on a booth number is the hall number. Okay. The letter that comes after that is the row it's on.
I didn't know that. Okay.
And then the numbers work from front to back, going up. So if it's 100, it's right at the front. If it's 120, it's the second row. 130 is third row, etc., etc. And the numbers in between. So if it's 135, it's the fifth block on the third row.
Okay, that makes sense.
So that's how we try to structure it. And once you understand the system, it's easy to work out where you are. But as I say, it's easy for me because we developed it and we know how it works, and we've been doing it for years, and we don't expect everyone to know it.
Well, that's why I was mentioning the app, though. That app helped me because I didn't understand that, right? I could open the app and I could say, where the freak am I? And where's the booth I'm looking for? And it was incredibly helpful.
Yeah.
So thank you for that.
We looked at lots of apps, and we actually tried other ones in the past. And then year before last, I was with the previous marketing director. He's now the vice president of marketing at Infocom. And we went to a conference, and this app was there. It's a company called Double Dutch. They're really sweeping through the exhibition industry with their app. And they presented us at the conference, and we used it. And I said, wow, this thing really works. It's very interactive. It's really good. Let's look at doing it at ISE. So I got my marketing team and our technical team onto it. I said, guys, please have a look at that. Tell me what you think. And they all came back and said, wow, let's do this. So they got in touch with Double Dutch, and they worked really closely with them and developed all the parts of it. They made the one part they say about this is the gamification. So they make it fun as well. There's a lot of communication in there. So what we found, and we missed the trick, we didn't realize how much people would still continue using the app after the show. And there were people there because we created a community, and people were communicating with each other for about a month after the show over the app. And our mistake was that we hadn't considered this beforehand, so we didn't continue putting content on there.
Oh.
Keep it interesting. Okay. So you'll see a difference this year, that we'll continue putting content on there from the show to actually keep the app alive, because we've created a community, we created a platform where people want to communicate with each other and get information. So we're going to facilitate that and keep it live.
That is an awesome idea. Yeah, I didn't even think about it either. Yeah, you're right. You're right, because that's the one thing. The gamification was not only were you able to compare yourself to the leaderboard, and our good friend Chris Netto was one of the people who, first of all, he loves games like that. Secondly, he loves social. So I think he was going up against Dan Goldstein, if I'm not mistaken. But there is a community. You get to know people socially, right, virtually. Because there's a good chance that you may not meet the people that you're following and you're communicating with in person during the show. But that's a very interesting little phenomenon there, that people were still using it to communicate back and forth.
Yeah, and one of the things that we've always said, when we started ISE, I said, I want to create not just an exhibition, I want to create an event. And that means part of it, we are the core. The exhibition is the core of it, but there needs to be other things going on around it. And the first year we didn't have that. And then the first magazine said, okay, we're going to do this party. And the first exhibitor said, we're going to do that party. And another one said, we're going to do awards. And another one said, we're going to do a conference. And suddenly this is built up. So, and you see this around Infocom, you see this around CEDIA. There's so much on the peripheral going around that makes the whole event exciting. If you just turn up in a city that's dull and you go from, the show hours to the show, and then you go back to your hotel, or you grab something to eat and go to bed, you get a bit bored. So if there's a lot going on around the show, to actually create the networking part of it, and we think that's just as important about the learning part. The learning part being education, finding new products and services and solution, and see how to increase your business. The networking part is actually connecting with your peers. And we're creating platforms to actually facilitate that networking. And this is where the app really helped us. And we saw a big jump. I must admit, unexpected, but now we know on how that's actually facilitating that part of it. So, we see how important networking is part of ISE.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would agree with you, is the fact that it's not just about the booths and the technology, it's also about the people. And sometimes it's even more so. All right, as we kind of wrap up here, as one of the things that is interesting for me is the fact that I'm U.S., right? I'm based in the U.S. I was born here. It's fun for me to sit and watch and learn from you, from Steph, from everybody at ISE, and from the integrators that are over there, how we are similar, but also how we're different.
Mm-hmm.
If you're an integrator, first of all, if you're an integrator in the MEA, if you're in Europe or Asia or Africa or whatever, somewhere in that general vicinity, why should you come to ISE?
Firstly, if you want to see the new products and solutions from most of the manufacturers, there are so many product launches going on at ISE. We're an industry that's constantly moving. And you're seeing that if you go to Infocom in June, there's new product launches. You go to CEDIA in September, there's new product launches. You come to ISE in February, there are new product launches. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, if you want to grow your business and actually see what's new going on and learn from our seminars, our conferences, the workshops, the trainings and qualifications that are coming from the associations, that's the other parts you can get to it as well. But the other part as well is that it's the networking also. So there's a lot to gain from being at ISE, increasing your business, learning more about what's going on in our industry, and broadening your knowledge.
All right, and as the no surprise here, but our number of our audience is North American based. Is what is the value for an integrator in Canada or an integrator in Florida for making the trip and going over to ISE?
Well, again, we encourage anyone in North America to go to the North American shows, because you'll get a lot of value from that as well. But what you'll see, as I already said, there are product launches going on also in the start of the year. So if you want to keep ahead and see what's there, then that's a good opportunity to see it. Now, on top of that, we're getting manufacturers from all over the world exhibiting at ISE. We have exhibitors from over 130 different countries. If you want to look at new products, maybe you're looking to start distribution, and you're looking for ideas of products you can distribute, here's another opportunity to actually meet those companies and see what they have to offer and make deals. We put a tool in place at ISE. It's free of charge. And if you are, it's called M2D, and you'll find it on the website, and you'll see also displays up around the show where you can actually go, if you are a distributor or an integrator who's looking to distribute, or you want to get into distribution and you're looking for new products, go there and you'll see, you say, okay, I'm from Canada. Is there anyone looking for a partner in Canada? And there'll be a list there showing those companies who are looking for partners there. So you can actually then make contact and say, okay, I'm doing business there. What can I sell your products? And we do it for all the manufacturers at the show to say, okay, give us a list. It's free of charge for them. Give us a list of the countries you're looking for partners so they can actually find you. So this is something else you can actually get as part of that too.
That is incredible, and it was another thing that I was a little floored by last year. Again, I come from the Midwest. I'm the typical big dumb American, and so I go there, and there are a number of manufacturers who either you're in Poland or Czechoslovakia or wherever, right? And talking with them and interviewing them and getting some stories out of them, asking about their distribution in the U.S. specifically, but also North America. More often than not, I got the response that they had, they didn't have an inroad into it. So that M2B thing, M2D thing is incredible because it allows folks like the people I talked with last year, who maybe necessarily didn't have the connections to connect with somebody who's interested in distributing. So
absolutely, and it came about because we found a lot of situations where manufacturers coming saying, hey, can you give us a list of people coming from Canada because we're looking for a distributor there, and we don't give that out to the exhibitors. But we try to facilitate because we want both sides of the business with each other. So we put this program together and we said, we're going to do it free of charge. It costs us money to put in place, but it's how to satisfy both sides. If you come along to the show and you do a deal, as an attendee, to become a distributor for a manufacturer, say, wow, that was really worthwhile. That's what I gained. And if you as the exhibitor on the other side find the right partner, you get the same thing. So we look at that as actually the additional part of making business happen at ISE. And we see a tremendous amount of value to it. And we know it works because of the feedback we get from it. We're glad to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. As we wrap up here, what one thing you hope or wish people knew or know about ISE that maybe they don't?
Well, firstly, enjoy Amsterdam. It's a wonderful city.
Yes.
I live in Munich, and I love the city I live in. I grew up in London, but I moved to Munich quite a long time ago, and it's my home city. If I was to move anywhere else in Europe, I'd move to Amsterdam. So, if you're there, enjoy the time there. The show is there to do business, and you can really be successful with that. But I say, enjoy the city. Stay Friday. Stay the weekend. If you're traveling from North America, you can reduce the cost of your travel substantially by staying over Saturday night. It won't cost you that much more in hotel to actually do it. And go and relax afterwards and take some time there. That's one of the things that I always try to push and say, enjoy the city. It's a great place to be. Have some, ISE is about business. ISE is about networking, but you should have some fun and relax as well.
Absolutely. Well, sir, thank you so much, Mr. Michael Blackman from ISE, Integrated Systems Europe. How can people find you or connect with you or ISE?
Well, first thing, our website has all the information, even has my phone number. It's www.iseurope.org. We look forward to welcoming everybody there. But come to the show. My staff, we have the organizer's office. It's between hall 11 and 12, marked in big letters. You can find me there or wandering around the floor. If you see me, say hello. I like to meet people. I love to meet new people. I'm very much in this industry, and I love to hear from people in this industry of what they think about our show. And if you've got something which you think we could improve, or something that you like and you want to give us some credit for as well, write to me, mblackman@iseurope.org. Tell us how we can make ISE better for you, or what's working for you, what's not working for you.
All right, very good. That'll be how we end it. Mr. Michael Blackman, ISE. My name is Tim Albright. I've been your host. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching.